Hi guys, tonight, we're going to explore a world that never lost its giants. Close your eyes now, and let the weight of the day settle into the mattress beneath you. Feel the air around you become still, cool, and quiet. We are going on a journey, not through space, but through time, into a history that almost was. We often think of the past as a series of closed doors, but tonight, we are going to push one of those doors open just a crack. Imagine a world where the great extinction of 66 million years ago was not an end, but a transformation. A world where the asteroid, that great messenger of fire, arrived with a whisper instead of a roar, or perhaps skipped across the atmosphere like a stone across a pond, leaving the earth bruised but unbroken. In this quiet, alternative cradle of history, the giants stayed. They breathed the air of the dawn, they walked through the tall ferns of the afternoon, and they slept under the same stars we see tonight. Take a deep breath in, and let it out slowly. Let's drift back to the end of the Cretaceous period. The sky of amber and ash. We begin in a forest that feels older than time itself. The air is thick, humid, and sweet with the scent of damp earth and rotting wood. In our timeline, this was the moment of the great dying. But here, in this gentle dream, the asteroid impact was distant. Perhaps it struck the deep, dark waters of the Pacific, its energy absorbed by the endless blue, or perhaps it broke apart in the sky, creating a decade of shimmering, twilight sunsets rather than a winter of ash. The sky is a soft, bruised purple. The sun is a pale gold coin hanging low behind a veil of volcanic haze. There is no panic here. There is only the slow, rhythmic pulse of a planet that is learning to adapt. The great heat has passed, and a long, cool autumn has settled over the world. Listen to the sound of the wind through the dawn redwoods. It is a low, mournful whistle. The leaves of the ginkgo trees, shaped like delicate fans, flutter and fall, carpeting the ground in a layer of soft gold. In the distance, we hear the first sound of our giants. It isn't a roar, it is a vibration. A low-frequency hum that you feel in your chest more than you hear with your ears. It is the sound of a herd of Edmontosaurus, moving through the mist like slow-moving ships in a harbor. The survivors in the mist. As the earth cooled, the dinosaurs did not simply vanish. They changed. Nature is a patient artist, and in this world, she began to sculpt the survivors for a new era. The great long-necked sauropods, those living cathedrals of bone and muscle, found sanctuary in the deep valleys where the geothermal vents kept the soil warm. Imagine a family of these titans standing in a shallow lake. Their skin is thick and wrinkled like the bark of an ancient oak, dappled with shades of slate gray and moss green. They move with a grace that defies their size, their long necks swaying like reeds in a slow-moving river. In this world, the cold-blooded myth has been put to rest. These creatures are warm, their hearts beating with a steady, powerful rhythm. To survive the cooler winters of this new era, some have grown coats of soft, downy proto-feathers, fine as silk, insulating them against the morning frost. Imagine a predator, a relative of the great Tyrannosaurus, standing quiet in a grove of silver firs. It is not a monster of scales, but a majestic phantom of winter, its shoulders covered in a mantle of white and charcoal feathers that blend perfectly with the snow-dusted shadows. It breathes out a puff of steam, a small cloud that hangs in the air for a moment before dissolving. It is patient. It is part of the balance. There is no frantic hunting here, only the slow, deliberate dance of existence. The mammals in the shadows. And what of us? Or rather, what of the tiny ancestors that would one day lead to us? Down among the tangled roots of the cycads, where the moss is thick and the mushrooms glow with a faint, bioluminescent light, the mammals are awake. They are small, scurrying things with bright, curious eyes and whiskers that twitch in the damp air. They are the purgatorius, the size of a small squirrel, with fur as soft as velvet. In our world, the disappearance of the dinosaurs gave these little creatures the keys to the kingdom. But here, the kingdom is still occupied. So, the mammals become masters of the hidden places. They are the gardeners of the night. They live in the high canopy of the flowering trees, leaping from branch to branch under the silver light of the moon, or they burrow deep beneath the roots of the giants, creating vast, silent cities of tunnels. They listen to the heavy footsteps of the dinosaurs above them, thump, 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 like the heartbeat of the earth itself. To the mammals, the dinosaurs are not enemies, they are features of the landscape, like moving mountains or walking forests. There is a strange, quiet peace in this coexistence. The mammals provide a service, cleaning the hides of the great herbivores of parasites, scurrying across the vast plains of a sauropod's back like tiny, furry caretakers. The changing seasons. The centuries turn into millennia, and the millennia turn into millions of years. The earth continues its slow tilt, its rhythmic wobble. The continents drift, pulling apart like slow-motion icebergs, and the dinosaurs drift with them. In the high latitudes, where the sun disappears for months at a time, we find the snowwalkers. These are dinosaurs that have fully embraced the cold. Imagine a valley draped in a blanket of pure, white snow. The world we have entered is a slow-moving river of time, where the ink of history was never blotted out by ash. As the millions of years stretch forward from that distant, avoided catastrophe, the earth breathes in a deep, steady rhythm. The continents continue their slow, majestic dance, drifting apart to create new oceans and rising mountains, and with every inch they move, the dinosaurs move with them, changing, softening, and refining into forms of exquisite beauty and intelligence. Tonight, we follow this thread of life into the deep future of an alternative Cenozoic, an era that, in this world, belongs not to the rise of the furred, but to the blossoming of the feathered. The emerald canopy, the arboreal alchemists. Imagine a forest that has had 60 million years to grow into itself. The trees here are gargantuan, their roots anchoring the very crust of the earth, their branches woven into a ceiling of living jade. In the quiet dappled light of the understory, the air is cool and smells of ancient resin and rain. In this world, the smaller predators, the cousins of the velociraptor, did not remain terrestrial hunters. They looked to the sky, but they did not all become birds. Instead, they became something unique to this timeline, the arbor stalkers. Picture a creature the size of a leopard, but as light as a cloud. Its body is covered in a dense, moss-colored plumage that breaks up its silhouette against the leaves. It possesses long, slender fingers with semi-retractable claws, designed not for tearing, but for gripping the bark of the titan oaks. These creatures move with a fluid, liquid grace, leaping between branches that are hundreds of feet above the forest floor. Their intelligence has sharpened in the complex three-dimensional world of the canopy. They live in small, bonded family units, communicating through a language of soft, melodic trills and clicking sounds that mimic the rhythmic dripping of water. They are the philosophers of the trees, spending long hours of the afternoon perched in the sun, preening their iridescent feathers and watching the world below with large, amber eyes that hold the wisdom of eras. The Great Plains, the woolly sentinels. As we leave the emerald shade of the forest and move toward the vast interior of the continents, the air turns crisp and the horizon opens wide. In this version of history, the Earth eventually entered its natural cooling cycles, just as our own did. But here, the dinosaurs did not perish in the frost, they embraced it. On the high, windswept prairies, we find the descendants of the ceratopsians, the horned giants. These are the tundra shields. They are massive, slow-moving herbivores with bodies built like granite boulders. To survive the long winters, they have traded their leathery hides for a thick, double-layered coat of woolly protofeathers. Imagine a bull tundra shield standing against a backdrop of a rising moon. His great frill, once a display of bone and skin, is now a magnificent fan of stiff, colorful feathers, used to signal to his herd across the snowy wastes. His breath comes in long, rhythmic plumes of steam. These giants are the engineers of the plains. Their heavy migrations create deep paths that other animals use, and their constant grazing encourages the growth of hardy, nutrient-rich grasses. They move in a state of perpetual calm, a slow-motion tide of life that knows no hurry. Their social bonds are deep. When a calf is born, the entire herd forms a circular wall of feathered ivory to keep the little one warm against the biting wind. The coastal dream, the sailors of the shallows. Let the sound of the wind on the plains fade into the gentle, rhythmic lap of waves against a white sand shore. The coastlines of this world are vibrant ecosystems where the land and sea hold hands. In the turquoise shallows of the coral reefs, we see the aqualopes. These are evolved ornithopods, descendants of the duck-billed dinosaurs, that have returned to the water's edge. Their feet have become broad and webbed, and their tails have flattened into powerful rudders. They spend their days wading through the warm lagoons, their long necks submerged as they graze on fields of seagrass. Their skin is a shimmering mosaic of blues and silvers, mirroring the play of light on the water. They are incredibly social, often seen floating in large groups, their heads bobbing above the surface as they emit low, resonating bellows that sound like the deep notes of a cello. The predators of the coast have also adapted. The skydivers, descendants of the smaller, flighted raptors, have become the masters of the cliffside. With wingspans that rival the largest albatross, they soar on the thermal vents of the ocean cliffs. They do not hunt with aggression, they glide with the wind, their keen eyes spotting the silver flash of fish below. They are the poetry of motion, silhouettes of grace against a setting sun that has watched their kind for over 100 million years. The evolution of the mind, the silent language. In the stillness of this long-form history, we must consider the most profound change of all, the evolution of dinosaur consciousness. Without a sudden end to their lineage, the neural pathways of these creatures had the luxury of time to grow complex and deep. In the quiet valleys of the temperate zones, there exists a species known as the pathfinders. These are bipedal, bird-like dinosaurs of moderate size. They do not possess tools or fire, for they have no need of them, their mastery is of the memory and the map. The world remains in a state of profound, undisturbed equilibrium. As the eras layer upon one another like the soft fall of snow, we find ourselves looking closer at the heartbeat of this alternate timeline. We are no longer merely observing the scale of the giants or the colors of their plumage, we are looking into their eyes. We are looking for the spark of the other, that quiet, internal light that we call consciousness. In our own history, the path to high intelligence was often viewed as a narrow corridor, one that only mammals, specifically primates, were destined to walk. But in this gentle dream of a world, where the great dying never occurred, nature had millions of additional years to experiment with the architecture of the brain. The results are not loud or industrial, they are subtle, woven into the very fabric of the forest and the plain. The architecture of the avian mind. To understand the intelligence of this world, we must first let go of our own definitions of what a smart creature looks like. We often associate intelligence with the grasping hand and the upright walk, but here, the mind has blossomed in different vessels. Imagine a creature descended from the troglodytes, those small, lithe predators known for having some of the largest brain-to-body ratios of their time. Over 30 million years of further evolution, they have become the psittacosapiens, or the parrot mimics, of the deep woods. They stand no taller than a human child, their bodies covered in a dense, velvet-like coat of slate-blue feathers that shimmer with a faint oil-slick iridescence in the moonlight. Their intelligence is not one of conquest, but of extraordinary social harmony. While the early primates of our world were developing the dexterity to crack nuts with stones, these dinosaurs were developing a neural complexity centered on vocal architecture. Their brains have expanded in the regions responsible for auditory processing and pattern recognition. Listen to the evening air in a grove of ancient ferns. You might hear what sounds like a complex, multi-layered flute concerto. It is not one bird, but a community of psittacosapiens. They use their dual syrinx, the vocal organ of birds, to produce two notes at once, creating harmonies that can convey vast amounts of information. They don't just say, "There is food over there," they describe the ripeness of the fruit, the direction of the wind, and the history of the tree that bears it. Their language is a living library, a song that never ends. The gentle use of tools. In this quiet world, the development of tools was not a sudden revolution, but a slow, organic growth. Because these creatures possess elegant, three-toed feet with highly mobile thumbs and nimble, beaked mouths, their relationship with the physical world is one of precision rather than force. Imagine a clearing where the moss is particularly thick. A group of these intelligent dinosaurs is gathered around a fallen log. They are not hacking at it, they are using extension tools. A young juvenile holds a slender, stripped twig of yew in its beak, using it to delicately coax larvae from deep within the wood. This is not a mindless instinct. The dinosaur has chosen this specific twig, stripped the bark to make it smooth, and even slightly hooked the end to better catch its prey. In our world, we see the shadows of this in the cleverness of New Caledonian crows or the problem-solving skills of parrots. But here, that cleverness has had 40 million years to deepen. These creatures collect utility kits, bundles of specific stones, shaped twigs, and dried seed pods, which they carry in small, woven pouches made of braided river grass. These pouches are perhaps the first signs of a culture of keeping. They are not just using what they find, they are preparing for a future they can envision in their minds. The social hearth. In the cooling nights of the late Cenozoic, these intelligent dinosaurs do not huddle in mindless fear. They gather in social rings. Picture a natural amphitheater formed by the roots of a massive dawn redwood. The ground is swept clean of debris. In the center, there is no fire, for fire is a violent thing that this world has not yet felt the need to tame, but there is a thermal pile. They have gathered decomposing vegetation and specific minerals that radiate a gentle, consistent warmth. Around this warm heart, the community settles. The social structure is not one of kings or slaves, but of knowledge keepers. The oldest members of the group, their feathers faded to a soft, distinguished gray, occupy the inner circle. They are the ones who hold the songs of the ancestors. There is a profound sense of empathy in these circles. When a member is injured, the others do not abandon them. They use their knowledge of the forest to bring specific herbs, ferns with antiseptic properties or barks that dull pain. This medicine is passed down through the songs. To look upon this scene is to see a mirror of our own early tribal gatherings, but with a different cadence. There is no shouting, no ego, only the rhythmic clicking of beaks and the soft ruffling of feathers as the community shares the warmth of the night. The speculative dream, a different kind of wisdom. As we watch these creatures, we begin to wonder about the nature of their thoughts. Do they have a sense of self? Do they look at the moon and see a goddess, or do they see a map? In this world, intelligence has taken a biophilic turn. The world is a vast, echoing chamber of giants, a cathedral of scale where the pillars are the legs of titans and the vaulted ceilings are the dense, prehistoric canopies. In this timeline, the sun belongs to the dinosaurs. It is their golden age, an era of heat, thunder, and immense physical presence. But as the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in long, tired strokes of violet and bruised orange, a different world awakens. This is the world of the small. The world of the soft. The world of the mammals. Close your eyes and imagine the forest floor at twilight. The air is cooling, the humidity of the day condensing into tiny, shimmering droplets on the underside of broad, waxy leaves. The massive creatures of the day, the triceratops with their heavy, rhythmic chewing, the soaring pterosaurs with their parchment-like wings, are settling into a deep, heavy slumber. Their breathing is like the sound of distant bellows, a slow, tectonic movement of air. And then, from beneath a rotting log encrusted with glowing velvet moss, a tiny pair of eyes opens. The architecture of the shadow. These are our ancestors, the Cimolodonts and the multituberculates. They are small, no larger than a dormouse or a small cat, with fur as soft as carded wool and whiskers that act as delicate antennae, mapping the vibrations of a world that is far too big for them. In this version of history, where the asteroid never cleared the path, the mammals have lived in the cracks of the earth for millions of years. They are the masters of the negative space, the holes in the ground, the hollows of trees, the narrow crevices between rocks where a dinosaur's claw cannot reach. There is a quiet melancholy in their existence, a life lived in the peripheral vision of history. They do not build monuments, they do not shake the earth. They are the silent witnesses. The mammal's survival is not a matter of strength, but of exquisite sensitivity. While the dinosaurs evolved scales and bone armor, the mammals evolved the silver thread of the nervous system. Their ears are masterpieces of biological engineering. They have 3 tiny bones in the middle ear, the malleus, the incus, and the stapes, transformed from the jawbones of their reptilian ancestors. This allows them to hear the world in high definition. To a mammal, the night is not silent. It is a symphony. They can hear the scuttle of a beetle 50 feet away, they can hear the soft, internal gurgle of a sleeping sauropod's stomach, they can hear the very approach of the dew as it settles on the grass. This is their first great advantage, the ability to hear what the giants ignore. The nocturnal garden. As we drift deeper into the night, the forest becomes a playground of shadows. The mammals emerge, moving with a quick, nervous grace. Their metabolism is a high-revving engine, fueled by a warm-blooded heart that beats with a frantic, melodic pulse. They are thermal rebels, maintaining a steady internal heat while the world around them grows cold. Imagine a small, furred creature climbing a fern. Its paws are remarkably dexterous, the ancestors of the hands that will one day hold a pen or a tool. It moves slowly, its whiskers twitching. It is searching for the night-blooming flowers that the dinosaurs never see. In this world, certain plants have evolved specifically for these nocturnal neighbors. They open their petals under the moonlight, releasing heavy, musky scents that act as beacons for the furry travelers. There is a strange peace in this relationship. The mammal sips the nectar and carries the pollen, acting as the secret gardener of the dinosaurs' kingdom. The giants walk over these flowers during the day, oblivious to the intricate, tiny drama that unfolds in the dark. The contrast is profound. Above, a Quetzalcoatl sleeps on a rocky outcropping, its wingspan as wide as a small airplane, a monument to the power of the sky. Below, in the tangled roots of the cliffside, a mother mammal huddles with her young. They are warm, a small ball of fur and heartbeat, defying the chill of the night. Their survival is a quiet victory of quality over quantity. The gift of the dream. One of the most beautiful advantages of the mammal is the way they sleep. Because they are warm-blooded and have complex brains, they are among the first creatures to experience true REM sleep, the sleep of dreams. While the dinosaurs sleep a deep, perhaps more linear slumber, the mammals are processing the world in their minds. Behind their tiny, closed eyelids, their brains are rehearsing the paths of the forest, remembering the location of a specific seed cache, and perhaps even imagining. This internal world is a sanctuary. It is a place where they are not small, where they are not hunted. This cognitive flexibility is a silent revolution. It allows them to learn. A young mammal watches its mother test the air for the scent of a predatory dromaeosaur, and it remembers. It learns that the sound of snapping twigs means one thing, while the rustle of wind means another. They are the first students of the earth, gathering data in the quiet hours to ensure their survival in the loud ones. Reflect on the patience required for such a life. To live for millions of years in the shadow of giants requires a temperament of profound humility. The mammals do not complain to the stars about their size. They simply adapt. They become faster, their fur becomes more camouflage, shades of leaf brown, charcoal gray, and lichen green, and their social bonds become tighter. The social whisper. In the darkness, communication must be subtle. The sun rises over an earth that is both unrecognizable and ancient, a world that has never known the sound of an engine or the sight of a skyscraper. In this long, slow unfolding of time, the 66 million years that followed the skipped heartbeat of the asteroid have been a masterclass in biological continuity. The planet breathes with a deep, undisturbed rhythm. The forests have grown thick and dark, the oceans have deepened into sapphire mysteries, and the sky is filled with the slow-moving shapes of giants. In this world, the niche of the dominant species was never left vacant. It was filled, not by the clever, furred primates of our timeline, but by the heirs of the Cretaceous. Tonight, we drift through a planet where the dinosaurs have become the architects of the ecosystem, a world that is vast, slow, and utterly timeless. The Emerald Continent, a canopy of ages. Imagine the Amazon or the Congo, but expand it to the scale of continents. In this world, the tropical belts are wider, the air richer in oxygen, and the trees are magnificent. We are gliding over a forest of dawn redwoods and evolved araucarias that reach hundreds of feet into the air. These are the Titan forests. The atmosphere here is heavy and sweet. Because there were no massive extinctions to reset the clock, the plants and the animals have reached a state of perfect, specialized symbiosis. There are flowers the size of dinner plates that only open for the passing of a specific long-necked herbivore, their pollen designed to stick to the pebbled skin of a giant snout. The dinosaurs here are not the frantic hunters of cinema. They are the forest managers. Imagine a descendant of the Diplodocus, refined by millions of years of evolution into the arbor titan. They move through the deep green like slow-motion rivers. Their necks are more flexible now, allowing them to prune the high canopy with surgical precision. This pruning allows light to reach the forest floor, creating light wells where a riot of ferns and flowering shrubs can thrive. The sound of the forest is a low-frequency hum. It is the vibration of the arbor titans communicating over miles, their voices traveling through the ground as much as through the air. It is a world of deep resonance, a world that feels grounded and immovable. The sky gardeners, masters of the winds. As we rise above the canopy, we enter the realm of the sky kings. In our world, the pterosaurs vanished, leaving the air to the birds. But here, the pterosaurs grew into forms of unimaginable grace. Imagine a creature with a wingspan of 40 feet, its bones as light as balsa wood and as strong as carbon fiber. It does not flap its wings with effort, it catches the thermals rising from the warm earth and stays aloft for weeks at a time. Its skin is covered in a fine, silk-like down, shimmering in the golden light of the late afternoon. These are the vein stalkers. They have become the sentinels of the atmosphere. Their eyes can see the heat signatures of the herds below and the subtle shifts in the moisture of the clouds. They are the navigators of the globe, migrating from pole to pole without ever needing to touch the ground except to lay their eggs in the high, inaccessible peaks of the mountains. Below them, the modern birds, the descendants of the smaller theropods, occupy the middle air. They are the musicians and the pollinators, darting through the leaves like sparks of living fire. The sky is a multi-layered masterpiece of movement, a choreographed dance that has been rehearsed for 100 million years. The sapphire abyss, giants of the deep. Let us leave the land and the air for a moment and sink into the cool, silent embrace of the ocean. The seas of this earth are teeming with a diversity that our world lost long ago. The great mosasaurs and plesiosaurs never left the waves. Instead, they evolved into the leviathans of the blue. Imagine a creature 70 feet long, its body a masterpiece of hydrodynamics. It moves through the water with the silence of a ghost, its four flippers working in perfect, rhythmic harmony. These are not the terrors of the deep, they are the singers of the sea. Like the whales of our timeline, they have developed complex songs that echo through the underwater canyons. But their songs are different, they are multitonal, a language of clicks and moans that can carry a map of the entire ocean in a single verse. In the shallows, the coral walkers, small, armored dinosaurs that have adapted to a semi-aquatic life, graze on the seagrass. Their backs are covered in a forest of anemones and barnacles, making them look like moving reefs. Everything in this ocean is connected. The nutrients from the deep are brought to the surface by the movement of the giants, and the land is fed by the sea. It is a closed loop of life, a perfect circle of water and salt. The Great Plains, the civilization of the herd. On the vast interior plains, where the grass grows as tall as a man, we find the most complex social structures of this world. There are no cities here, no roads, no fences. Instead, there are the walking cities, herds of hundreds of thousands of individuals. Imagine a herd of shieldbacks, the descendants of the Triceratops. They move in a massive, undulating formation. They have developed a culture of memory. The matriarchs of the herd remember the location of every watering hole and every salt lick across a territory the size of a country. They communicate through the coloring of their great frills. The question of our own existence in a world that never lost its giants is a quiet, shimmering thread of what if. It is a thought that invites us to sit still, perhaps by a window or under the soft glow of a reading lamp, and contemplate the sheer tenacity of life. In this alternative history, where the great asteroid missed its mark and the age of reptiles continued to blossom into 100 million different forms, we must ask, is there a place for us? Could the spark of the primate, and eventually the human, still catch fire in a forest dominated by the airs of the Cretaceous? As we drift into this contemplation, let the weight of the present moment fall away. We are not looking for a story of conflict or a cinematic struggle for survival. We are looking for the slow, patient pathways of biology. We are looking for the quiet ways that nature finds a home for the small, even in the presence of the immense. The shelter of the vertical world. In our own history, the rise of the primates was intrinsically linked to the forest. When the dinosaurs vanished, the mammals were free to descend from the trees and explore the ground, eventually finding the open savannas where they would learn to walk upright. But in a world where the plains are ruled by massive, feathered theropods and herds of armored herbivores, the ground is a place of great danger and crushing weight. For the primate in this world, the forest is not just a home, it is a fortress. Imagine a world where the tropical and temperate forests have had tens of millions of years of uninterrupted growth. The trees are gargantuan, their branches forming a complex, multi-layered city in the sky. It is here, in the vertical world, that the primate evolution would take a different, perhaps more specialized path. In the high canopy, far above the reach of even the tallest long-necked sauropod, the environment is relatively safe. The challenges here are not the teeth of a tyrannosaurus, but the mastery of gravity and the navigation of the wind. In this world, primates might never have felt the pressure to leave the trees. Instead of becoming the striding man of the plains, we might have become the aerialists of the emerald heights. The evolution of the arboreal mind. Intelligence often arises as a solution to a problem. In our world, the problem was navigating a changing landscape and social cooperation. In the dinosaur world, the problem for a primate is complex invisibility. To survive among dinosaurs, a primate must be a master of the subtle. This requires a brain that is highly tuned to pattern recognition. Our ancestors would need to distinguish between the rustle of a harmless lizard and the silent, calculated approach of a tree-climbing raptor. This constant, high-stakes observational pressure would act as a powerful engine for cognitive growth. We can speculate that these primates would develop an extraordinary level of spatial intelligence. Navigating a three-dimensional labyrinth of branches, where a single misstep means a fall of 200 feet, requires a mind that can map the world in exquisite detail. Their hands would become even more refined, with fingers capable of feeling the slightest vibration in a branch or the varying textures of bark to determine its grip. But would they become human? Perhaps not in the way we define it. Without the need to carry tools across a savanna, their dexterity might be used for different ends, perhaps the intricate weaving of leaf shelters or the manipulation of forest resources in a way that resembles a slow, deliberate form of gardening. Their technology would be biological and woven, rather than cold and forged. The challenge of scale and the wisdom of smallness. One of the greatest challenges posed by the continued existence of dinosaurs is the sheer physical scale of the world. When the average herbivore weighs as much as a truck, the resource requirements of the ecosystem are massive. In this world, being small is a sophisticated evolutionary strategy. Small creatures require less food, they can hide in smaller spaces, and they can survive on the scraps of the giants. A primate in this world would likely remain small, perhaps the size of a gibbon or a large lemur. But smallness does not mean a lack of complexity. In fact, it often demands it. To be small in a world of giants is to be a student of the gaps. These primates would become the world's most gifted ecologists. They would know the exact moment a certain fruit was at its peak, they would understand the migratory patterns of the giants and follow in their wake to gather the insects stirred up by their massive footsteps. There is a quiet, meditative quality to this existence. It is a life of watching. While the dinosaurs dominate the macro world, the great movements of herds and the thunder of the hunt, the primates would dominate the micro world. They would be the keepers of the forest's secrets, the ones who know the language of the birds and the timing of the blossoms. The alternate path, the nocturnal human. If the day belongs to the dinosaurs and their keen, bird-like vision, perhaps the path to humanity in this world lies through the night. In our world, humans are primarily diurnal. But in a dinosaur-dominated world, the night offers a veil of safety. We can imagine a branch of primate evolution that fully embraced the nocturnal life, developing large, light-gathering eyes and a heightened sense of hearing. Intelligence in the dark is different. It relies more on sound and memory. The sun begins its slow descent over the jagged horizon of the Rift Valley, casting long, amber shadows that stretch across the savanna like the fingers of a giant. In this world, the amber does not just hold the memory of insects, it holds the light of a history that refused to break. As we settle into the quiet of the evening, let us travel to a time when the first wandering tribes of our kind stepped out of the dense forest and looked upon a world that was already claimed. They did not find an empty land waiting to be conquered. They found a cathedral of scales and thunder. To understand the early story of humanity in a world of dinosaurs is to understand the birth of a specific kind of wisdom, not the wisdom of the master, but the wisdom of the neighbor. The architecture of the hidden. The first human settlements were not built in the open plains, for the open plains belonged to the great ceratopsian herds and the predators that shadowed them. Instead, our ancestors sought the liminal spaces, the edges of cliffs, the hidden canyons, and the high, rocky outcrops where the sheer geography of the earth acted as a shield. Imagine a village known as the Shelf Hollows. It is built into the side of a sandstone mesa, 300 feet above the valley floor. The dwellings are small, circular structures made of mud brick and reinforced with the shed ribs of long-dead sauropods, bones found in the graveyards of the lowlands and hauled up with incredible effort. In the anthropological record of this world, we see a culture of verticality. These humans were climbers before they were walkers. Their settlements were connected by intricate networks of rope bridges made from the fibers of giant ferns and stone-cut stairs that wound around the cliffs. From these heights, they could watch the world below with the detached curiosity of gods. They watched the migration of the Edmontosaurus as if watching a slow, gray river. They learned to read the moods of the valley by the sound of the wind and the vocalizations of the titans. The language of respect. Fear was the first emotion, but respect was the second. In the early days, the dinosaurs were viewed as forces of nature, unpredictable and immense, like the lightning or the flood. But as the centuries passed, fear matured into an intricate system of observation and taboos. The early humans did not see themselves as separate from the dinosaurs, they saw themselves as a small part of a great hierarchy. This birthed a culture of active silence. In the shelf hollows, the loudest sounds were the rhythmic grinding of grain or the soft singing of lullabies. To be loud was to be vulnerable. To be quiet was to be safe. Their language evolved to include hundreds of words for the different states of the dinosaur world. There was a word for the vibration of a predator's footstep through the earth, and another for the specific shimmering of the air when a herd is about to move. They became the world's finest trackers, not because they wished to hunt the giants, but because they needed to know exactly where they were at all times. Anthropologically, we see this in their art. The cave paintings of this world are not scenes of the hunt. They are maps. They are diagrams of movement. They are portraits of the giants rendered with a reverent, anatomical precision that suggests a deep, spiritual study of their neighbors. A Tyrannosaurus is not painted as a monster, but as a high spirit of the red earth, a creature to be avoided, yes, but also to be admired for its terrifying grace. The ecology of coexistence. As humans adapted, they began to find the cracks in the dinosaur ecosystem where they could thrive. They became the masters of the microniche. One of the most fascinating developments was the gleaning economy. Because dinosaurs are massive, they are inherently messy. A herd of sauropods moving through a forest leaves behind a trail of broken branches, overturned soil, and vast amounts of organic waste. To the early humans, this was not debris, it was a bounty. They followed the herds at a safe distance, acting as the forest's secondary cleaners. They gathered the high-altitude fruits that the longnecks knocked down, they collected the insects that swarmed in the wake of the giants, they used the churned earth to plant their own fast-growing tubers. There was a symbiotic rhythm to it. The humans provided a service, too. They learned that by clearing away the parasites from the nesting grounds of the duck-billed dinosaurs, they could earn a sort of tenancy. The dinosaurs, while not domesticating in the traditional sense, grew accustomed to the presence of the small-furred ones. They recognized the humans as non-threats, and in some cases, the presence of a human camp, with its smoke and its watchful eyes, acted as a deterrent to smaller, egg-stealing predators. It was a peace built on the mutual benefit of the small and the large. The cultural impact, the cult of the scale. The dinosaurs permeated every aspect of human culture, from religion to medicine. The great scale became a symbol of endurance and protection. Warriors would carry a single scute from a discarded Ankylosaurus armor plate as a shield, not just for its physical strength, but for its spiritual weight. Their mythology was a Titan mythos. They believed the world was hatched from a great egg and that the mountains were the spines of the first ancestors who had fallen asleep. This gave the early humans a profound sense of deep time. They knew they were newcomers to a world that was very, very old. The world has settled into a deep, resonant stillness, a state of grace that has endured for millions of years. As we let the rush of the modern world fade away, we find ourselves standing on the edge of a civilization that looks nothing like the one we know. In this timeline, humanity did not emerge to find an empty throne, we emerged as guests in a palace already inhabited by ancient and formidable masters. To survive and eventually flourish, our ancestors did not pave over the earth. Instead, they learned to weave their lives into the gaps left by the giants. Tonight, we observe the architecture, the industry, and the daily rhythms of a human society that grew up in the shadow of the dinosaur. It is a world of wood, stone, and feather, a world of profound patience and ecological artistry. The architecture of the high and the hollow. In a world where the ground can literally tremble under the weight of a passing sauropod, human architecture had to evolve with two principles in mind: safety and non-interference. We did not build sprawling, flat cities that would obstruct the ancient migratory paths of the herds. Instead, we built up, and we built in. Imagine the city of Ethelgard, nestled within the sheer cliffs of a great inland canyon. The homes are not freestanding structures but are carved directly into the living rock, much like the ancient dwellings of Petra, but expanded to a breathtaking scale. The windows of these homes are circular and framed in polished dinosaur bone, looking out over the valley floor where the titans graze. The most striking feature of human architecture in this world is the hanging garden bridges. Because the valley floors are often reclaimed by the forest or the herds, humans travel between the cliffs via massive, swaying bridges made of braided spider silk and reinforced vines. These bridges are wide enough to carry small carts and are lined with hanging planters where herbs and vegetables are grown. To walk across one is to be suspended in the air, a spectator to the prehistoric world below. In the lowland regions, where cliffs are absent, humans have developed stilt villages. These are clusters of homes built atop massive pillars of petrified wood, anchored deep into the earth. The pillars are smooth and treated with natural resins to prevent the smaller, more curious raptors from climbing them. At night, the ladders are drawn up, and the village becomes an island in a sea of ferns, safely out of reach of the wandering giants. The art of the shared harvest, farming with giants. Farming in our world is an act of total control, clearing land, tilling soil, and excluding all other life. In the world of the dinosaur, farming is an act of cooperation. Humans have become commensal cultivators. The most prized agricultural lands are the migration trails. When a herd of several thousand hadrosaurs moves through a region, they clear the underbrush and fertilize the soil with a frequency and scale that no human machine could match. Human farmers follow in their wake, planting fast-growing grains and nutrient-dense tubers in the freshly turned, nutrient-rich earth. We do not use fences. Instead, we use scent boundaries. By planting specific aromatic shrubs, lavender, pungent peppers, or bitter root, human farmers create invisible walls that most dinosaurs instinctively avoid. It is a gentle negotiation. We concede the vast majority of the land to the giants, and in return, they leave our small, fragrant pockets of harvest alone. Watering these crops is a feat of communal engineering. High in the mountains, humans have constructed elaborate aqueducts made of hollowed-out conifer trunks. These channels carry mountain runoff down to the cliffside terraces, where gravity-fed irrigation systems drip-feed the plants. The sound of the water is a constant, musical backdrop to daily life, a soft, rhythmic drip-drop that mirrors the steady breathing of the world. Transportation, the carriers of the sky and the earth. Transportation is perhaps where human ingenuity has shone most brightly. We have not invented the steam engine or the internal combustion motor. Such noises would be an affront to the acoustic balance of the forest and might provoke the territorial instincts of the larger predators. Instead, we have looked to the sky and the smaller residents of the plains. For long-distance travel across the great oceans of grass, humans have entered into a partnership with the Gallimimes, descendants of the Gallimimus. These flightless, long-legged dinosaurs are the horses of this world, but with an intelligence and social bonding that far exceeds any equine. They move with a fluid, leaping gait that can cover hundreds of miles in a single day. The saddles are light, crafted from the cured skin of fallen reptiles and padded with the soft down of the snowy owls. A traveler on a Gallimime does not use a bit or a bridle. Communication is done through soft whistles and pressure from the knees. It is a partnership of mutual respect. For the transport of heavy goods between the cliff cities, we utilize the aero gondolas. These are large, woven baskets suspended from the underbellies of the great quetzal, the massive, evolved pterosaurs of the high peaks. These pterosaurs are not tamed in the sense of being broken, they are contracted. Humans provide them with a steady supply of high-quality fish and safe nesting sites on the city ledges, and in return, the quetzal allow themselves to be harnessed to the gondolas for a few hours each day. The modern world has found its equilibrium, a quiet and steady pulse that beats in time with the footfalls of giants. As we let the evening air settle around us, imagine a skyline that does not fight the horizon, but arches to accommodate it. In this timeline, the 21st century is not a triumph of concrete over nature, but a sophisticated collaboration between the digital age and the Mesozoic legacy. We have reached a point where high technology and ancient biology exist in a state of mutual, silent respect. Tonight, we are going to walk through a city built for two worlds, a place where the glass of a skyscraper reflects the passing of a titan, and where the silence of a park is a deliberate gift to those who were here long before us. The breath of the Neo-Cretaceous city. Imagine the city of Pangaea. At first glance, it looks familiar, shimmering towers of steel and recycled carbon, high-speed transit lines, and lush rooftop gardens. But as you look closer, you notice the great corridors. These are vast, mile-wide swaths of green that cut directly through the heart of the urban sprawl. They are not parks for people, but protected migration lanes, lined with specialized acoustic dampeners that absorb the city's hums so as not to disturb the sensitive hearing of a passing herd. The architecture here is designed with passive durability. Buildings are not rigid, they are built on sophisticated seismic dampers, originally designed for earthquakes but now repurposed to absorb the rhythmic vibrations of a sauropod's gait. The street-level glass is not merely glass, but a reinforced transparent ceramic that is matte finished to prevent the glare that might startle a territorial triceratops. There is a unique stillness to this city. We have largely moved past the internal combustion engine, not just for the climate, but for the quiet. Magnetically levitated trains glide silently along elevated tracks, high above the ground-level habitats. The air is clear, smelling of ozone and the deep, resinous scent of the dawn redwoods that line every boulevard. The integration of technology and instinct. In this modern world, our technology is used to create soft barriers. We no longer use fences or walls to separate our lives from the giants. Instead, we use bioacoustic fencing. Hidden within the foliage of the city's edge are small, solar-powered nodes that emit low-frequency infrasound, sounds below the range of human hearing but well within the range of a dinosaur's. These sounds act as gentle, invisible markers. A "keep away" signal might mimic the low growl of a dominant predator or the vibration of unstable ground. To the dinosaurs, it is simply a natural reason to turn away. To us, it is a way to live side by side without conflict. Every citizen has the Ecology app on their devices. It provides a real-time, satellite-tracked map of dinosaur movements. It doesn't warn of danger, but of presence. If a family of hadrosaurs is moving through the neighborhood park to graze on the genetically preserved ferns, the app gently suggests a different route for your morning walk. It's a world of constant, mindful adjustment. We do not demand the right of way, we share it. In the hospitals and research centers, biotechnology has advanced through the study of dinosaur resilience. We have learned the secrets of rapid bone regeneration and the immune systems that have survived millions of years of shifting climates. Our medicine is a gift from the giants, and in return, our veterinary drones monitor the health of the wild herds, delivering vaccines or nutrients during times of drought without ever needing to disturb the animals. The protected regions, the grand sanctuaries. Beyond the city limits lie the grand sanctuaries, vast territories where the modern world steps back entirely. These are the size of countries, places where the ecosystems are allowed to function with zero human interference, monitored only from orbit. Imagine the Amazonian Cretaceous Basin. Here, the trees have grown to heights that dwarf anything in our world, fueled by high oxygen levels and the constant nutrient cycling of the giants. In these regions, we are the observers. High-altitude, cloud stations, vast, solar-powered dirigibles, hover miles above the canopy, allowing scientists and travelers to look down into a world that has remained unchanged for eons. From these stations, you can watch a storm roll across the canopy. As the lightning flashes, you see the silhouettes of the great longnecks, their heads rising above the mist like the masts of ancient ships. There is a profound sense of perspective here. You realize that our cities, for all their brilliance, are small islands in a vast, reptilian sea. The sanctuaries remind us that we are not the masters of the earth, but its temporary guests. Transportation, the silence of the sky. Travel in this world is an exercise in observation. Because ground-level highways would disrupt the territories of the great predators, most long-distance transport is handled by the straightest lines. These are high-speed, vacuum tube trains that run through transparent tunnels suspended hundreds of feet in the air. As you sit in your quiet, comfortable pod, the world unfolds below you. You might see a pack of feathered dromaeosaurs chasing a herd of small ornithopods through a field of sunflowers. You see it from a distance, without the noise of a car or the vibration of a road. Air travel is strictly regulated. The timeline we have traveled tonight is a tapestry woven from the threads of what if, a long and winding path through a forest that never fell. As we sit here in the quiet of the present moment, watching the shadows lengthen and the world settle into its evening repose, it is time to reflect on the journey. We have seen a world where the giants stayed, where the mammals found wisdom in the shadows, and where humanity grew up not as the undisputed masters of the earth, but as humble observers of a much older, much larger story. This alternate history is more than just a dream, it is a mirror. It asks us to look at our own world, the one where the asteroid did strike, where the fire did fall, and where the giants did vanish, with new eyes. It asks us to consider the role of loss, the weight of survival, and the profound beauty of a world that persists, no matter which path it takes. The architecture of absence. In our world, the silence of the dinosaurs is the foundation upon which we built our cities. Their extinction was a violent, catastrophic reset that cleared the stage for the rise of the furred and the clever. We often view extinction as a tragedy, a dark smudge on the record of life, but in the grand, slow breathing of the planet, it is also a sculptor. Without the great dying of 66 million years ago, the tiny, scurrying ancestors we saw in the first chapter of our story might never have felt the pressure to leave the safety of the trees. The open plains might have remained a land of thunder and scales, forever closed to the soft-footed primates. Our own history is defined by the spaces the dinosaurs left behind. Every field we plow, every road we pave, and every star we name is possible only because a vacuum was created in the ecosystem. Reflecting on this alternate history helps us understand that our presence here is not an inevitability, but a gift of circumstance. We are the beneficiaries of a cosmic accident. This realization shouldn't make us feel small, rather, it should imbue our existence with a sense of profound wonder. We are the survivors of a storm we never had to face, living in a house built by the memories of giants. The wisdom of the giants. What can we learn from imagining a world that never lost its titans? Perhaps the greatest lesson is the value of deep time. When we imagine the dinosaurs continuing their journey for another 60 million years, we are forced to think in scales that dwarf our modern lives. We see that evolution is not a race to a finish line, but a slow, rhythmic dance. In the dinosaur-dominated world, intelligence took its time. It didn't rush to build engines or split the atom, it blossomed into complex social songs, refined seasonal migrations, and a perfect, shimmering balance with the environment. In our world, we are often in a hurry. We measure progress in seconds, months, and fiscal years. But the dinosaurs remind us of the beauty of the long peace. They remind us that a species can exist for 100 million years in a state of equilibrium, without ever needing to conquer the world to be successful. They teach us that true strength is not the ability to change the world, but the ability to endure within it. There is a quiet dignity in the way these imagined dinosaurs lived. They were not primitive or obsolete. They were masterpieces of biology, fine-tuned by the sun and the rain. By imagining them in our modern world, grazing beside our maglev trains or nesting near our cliff cities, we learn to appreciate the otherness of life. We learn that there are many ways to be intelligent, many ways to be social, and many ways to be successful on this spinning blue marble. The mirror of fragility. Imagining this world also highlights the fragility of our own. In our reality, we are the ones who have become the giants. We are the ones whose footprints shake the earth and whose decisions shape the atmosphere. We have become the asteroid. The alternate history we've explored tonight shows a world where balance was maintained through a natural, slow-motion negotiation between species. In that world, humans had to be careful, observant, and respectful. We couldn't afford to be reckless because the consequences were immediate and immense. By stepping into that world for a few hours, we can bring back a piece of that humility. We can learn to look at our own forests, our own oceans, and our own sky with the same reverence the cliff dwellers felt for the sauropods. We can learn that being the dominant species is not a license to exploit, but a responsibility to protect. We are the only creatures in our timeline who can tell the story of the dinosaurs, that makes us the keepers of the Earth's memory. The continuity of life. As we reflect, we see that the most important thing, the golden thread that connects both our world and the alternate one, is the persistence of life. Whether it is a world of feathers and scales or a world of fur and steel, life is an unstoppable force. It finds a way through the dark, it heals the scars of fire, it fills the silence with new songs. The dinosaurs were not a failure of nature because they went extinct in our world, just as we would not be a failure if we had remained small and hidden in theirs. Life is a conversation that the earth is having with itself. Sometimes the voices are loud and thunderous, and sometimes they are soft and whispered. Tonight, we have listened to both. We have heard the rumble of the Brontosaurus and the quiet scuttle of the Purgatorius. In the deepening twilight of a world that remains shared, we find ourselves standing on the edge of a great, golden savanna. The air is cooling now, the heat of the afternoon sun lingering only in the terracotta dust and the rough bark of the acacia trees. Tonight, we are drifting back to a time of profound uncertainty, a time when the first humans were no longer just observers, but active participants in the great, ancient rhythm of the dinosaurs. This was an era of the quiet tension. It was a delicate, fragile moment in history where two very different kinds of awareness began to brush against one another. It was not a time of conquest, nor was it a time of war. It was something much more subtle, a long, slow conversation of glances, shadows, and the instinctual measurement of distance. Close your eyes, and feel the soft, rhythmic brush of the wind against the tall grass. It is a slow, steady breeze, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant, blooming jasmine. The world is immense, and in this vastness, the presence of the giants is a weight you can feel in the air itself. The boundary of the tree line. Imagine a small group of humans moving through the dappled light of an ancient cedar forest. They move with a grace that is almost liquid, their feet finding the softest patches of moss to avoid the snap of a dry twig. They are not hunting, they were never foolish enough to hunt the true giants. They are simply moving from one valley to another, following the seasonal ripening of the starfruit. But today, the forest feels different. The usual chorus of the smaller, bird-like dinosaurs has gone silent. The only sound is the low, mournful creak of the branches overhead. The tension begins not with a roar, but with a shadow. High above the ferns, a massive head appears. It belongs to a gorgon stalker, a descendant of the great theropods, refined by millions of years into a creature of lean, feathered elegance. It does not look at the humans with malice. To the dinosaur, these small, furred bipeds are a curiosity, a new variable in an old landscape. The humans stop. They do not run, for running is an invitation to the chase. They do not shout, for shouting is an admission of fear. Instead, they become like the trees themselves. They sink into the shadows, their breathing slowing until it matches the rustle of the leaves. The dinosaur tilts its head. Its large, liquid eye, amber and flecked with gold, catches the dim light. It exhales, a long, slow plume of steam that smells of the wild, raw earth. For a long minute, time ceases to move. The predator is not aggressive, and the humans are not defiant. There is only a profound, vibrating awareness between the two. Eventually, the dinosaur turns. It moves with a terrifying silence, its massive tail sweeping through the ferns like a ghost. It has decided that these small creatures are not worth the energy of the hunt. The humans wait until the vibration of its footsteps has faded into the earth before they breathe again. This was not a victory, it was a negotiation. The architecture of the Watchers. As the humans realized that the ground was a place of constant, low-level tension, their relationship with the environment changed. They began to build their lives around the concept of the watchtower. In the open plains, where the horizon stretches into infinity, early human settlements took the form of mound cities. These were not built of stone, but of earth and thick, thorny brush, designed to look like natural features of the landscape. From the highest point of these mounds, sentinels would sit for hours, their eyes scanning the golden grass for the telltale shimmer of a predator's back or the dust clouds of a migrating herd. The fear was constant, but it was a quiet, productive fear. It sharpened the senses. It turned the humans into the world's greatest scholars of behavior. They learned that a triceratops bull, when agitated, would tilt its head to the left, and that a pack of dromaeosaurs would communicate through a series of high-pitched whistles that sounded like the wind through a hollow reed. They learned to defend themselves not with spears of iron, but with the power of the to know space. They discovered that if they planted certain types of stinging nettles around their camps, the heavy-footed herbivores would avoid them. They learned that if they kept a constant, low-burning fire of green cedar, the smoke would mask their scent from the keen noses of the hunters. Their defense was a defense of subtlety. They were not trying to dominate the dinosaurs, they were trying to be unnoticed. They were the ghosts of the savannah, living in the narrow margins of the giant's peripheral vision. The near conflict at the watering hole. One of the most evocative moments of this era occurs at the edge of the Mirror Lake, a vast body of water that serves as the lifeblood for all creatures in the rift. It is the height of the dry season. The sun is a pale, hazy disk behind a veil of volcanic ash. A small tribe of humans has come to the water's edge to fill their skin bags. They are careful, choosing a spot where the banks are steep and the mud is firm. But as they work, a herd of titan walkers, the massive sauropods of the deep south, emerges from the dust. They are thirsty, and in their thirst, they are indifferent to anything smaller than a boulder. They move forward like a slow-motion landslide, their heavy feet churning the mud into a thick, gray slurry. A young human, perhaps more curious than wise, finds himself separated from the group. In the quiet, amber glow of a world that chose a different path, we find ourselves standing upon a high, grassy ridge at the edge of the great inner valley. The sun is beginning its slow, majestic descent, casting long, liquid shadows across a landscape that has never known the bite of a cold machine or the scars of a scorched earth. Tonight, we are drifting into the heart of the era of the Great Accord, a time when the sharp edges of fear finally softened into the smooth curves of understanding. Close your eyes now, and let the air in your room become as still and sweet as the atmosphere of this ancient future. Imagine the scent of wild lavender and crushed pine needles, rising on a breeze so gentle it barely stirs the silver ferns. In this world, the tension we once felt between the small and the immense has dissolved, replaced by a profound, rhythmic harmony. The architecture of the weave. As we look down from our ridge, we see a human village nestled into the bend of a sparkling river. But it does not look like any village from our history books. There are no walls here. There are no gates or fences. The homes are circular, built from river stone and sun-bleached timber, their thatched roofs blending seamlessly into the golden hills. This village was built with the wisdom of the Great Path. Running directly through the center of the settlement is a wide, ancient trail, a highway of pounded earth that has been used by the long-necked sauropods for 1,000 generations. Instead of blocking this path, the humans built their lives around it. The houses are spaced widely apart, leaving ample room for the titans to pass. The gardens are not hidden away but are planted along the edges of the trail, filled with high-growing fruit trees that the giants prune with their soft, prehensile lips as they move toward the water. It is a shared garden, a place where the human harvest and the dinosaurs' forage are one and the same. The morning ritual in this village is a dance of mutual awareness. As the sun touches the peaks of the distant mountains, the first of the giants, perhaps a family of lumber walkers, descendants of the Brachiosaurus, emerges from the forest. They move with a deliberate, slow-motion grace, their footsteps creating a low, rhythmic vibration that the humans use as a natural alarm clock. A human child sits on the low stone wall of her home, eating a piece of melon. She does not run. She does not hide. She simply watches as a massive, wrinkled leg, the size of a tree trunk, is placed gently on the earth just a few feet away. The dinosaur pauses, its long neck swaying down to acknowledge the small figure. There is a moment of silent greeting, a blink of a large, golden eye, before the giant continues its journey toward the river. The seasonal symphony, understanding the tide. In this world, humanity has become the master of the tide of life. We no longer try to dictate where nature goes, we have learned to follow its lead. The humans of this era are the world's greatest scholars of migration. They understand that the movement of the dinosaurs is not random, but a response to the heartbeat of the planet. They know that when the blue-winged dragonflies return to the marshes, the herds of shieldbacks will soon follow, bringing with them the seeds of the mountain grasses in their wake. This understanding has led to a life of extraordinary peace. Because the humans know exactly where the dinosaurs will be and when, there is no conflict over resources. During the month of the Great Crossing, when the plains are filled with millions of migrating herbivores, the humans move their daily activities to the high terraces. They use this time for reflection, for weaving, and for the telling of stories. They view the migration not as an intrusion, but as a blessing. The heavy feet of the dinosaurs churn the soil, preparing it for the rains. Their presence keeps the smaller, more aggressive predators at bay. The humans, in turn, act as the gleaners of the path. They clear away the fallen branches that might trip a young calf, they keep the watering holes free of debris. It is a relationship of passive stewardship. We do not own the dinosaurs, and they do not serve us. We simply exist in the same rhythm, two different melodies playing in the same beautiful key. The soft science of coexistence. The technology of this world is soft technology. It is a science of biology, chemistry, and sound. Instead of building hard barriers, the humans have developed acoustic markers. These are small, beautifully carved wooden flutes placed in the trees, powered by the wind. They emit a constant, low-frequency hum that the dinosaurs find soothing. These markers are placed to guide the herds away from the delicate medicinal gardens or the sleeping quarters of the village. It is not a command, it is a suggestion. The path is easier this way, the wind flutes whisper. And the dinosaurs, who value ease and peace above all else, follow the sound. The humans have also learned the chemistry of the leaf. They have discovered that by planting certain types of sage and wild mint around their dwellings, they create a scent barrier that acts as a natural repellent for the smaller, more curious raptors. The raptors are not harmed, they simply find the scent unappealing and choose to hunt in the deep forest instead. This is the hallmark of the Great Accord. Every problem is solved with a gentle touch rather than a heavy hand. Intelligence is used to minimize friction, to smooth the path for all living things. Now, as we gently step back and look at this world, we see a tapestry that has been woven over millions of years, a world where the thread of the dinosaur was never cut, and the thread of humanity was woven in with a careful, deliberate hand. It is a world that feels both impossibly ancient and breathtakingly new. It is a world that has reached a state of grand completion. Imagine, if you will, that you are floating high above the earth, looking down through the soft, gossamer layers of the atmosphere. Below you, the continents are lush and vibrant, a deep emerald green that stretches from pole to pole. There are no gray scars of industrial wasteland, there are no sprawling, suffocating grids of concrete. Instead, there are the luminous cities, clusters of light that look like fallen constellations, nestled into the curves of the rivers and the embrace of the mountains. In this alternate Earth, we have reached the pinnacle of what it means to be a civilization. We are no longer a species that fights against the wind and the tide. We are a species that has learned to sail with them. The living architecture of the heights. As we descend toward one of these cities, perhaps the great coastal capital of Aurelia, we see how the advanced mind has finally aligned itself with the natural world. The buildings here are not static boxes of glass and steel. They are biotowers, structures grown from modified sequoia DNA and reinforced with carbon fiber lattices that mimic the strength of bone. These towers rise hundreds of feet into the air, their surfaces covered in a living skin of moss and flowering vines that purify the air and regulate the temperature inside. At the base of these towers, there are no noisy streets. Instead, there are flowways, wide, grassy boulevards where the great dinosaurs of the plains walk freely. Imagine looking out from a balcony on the 50th floor. To your left, a group of skysoars, the massive, graceful descendants of the pterosaurs, glide on the thermals between the buildings. Their wings are iridescent, catching the light of the setting sun and scattering it in shades of opal and pearl. They are not afraid of the towers are part of their cliffs. Below you, in the city's central park, a forest that spans dozens of miles, a herd of gilded titans moves toward the evening fountains. These are sauropods that have evolved to have shimmering, reflective scales that help regulate their heat. They move with a quiet majesty, their long necks dipping down to drink from the recycled waterfalls that cascade down the sides of the buildings. To the citizens of Aurelia, this is not a spectacle. It is simply the rhythm of a Tuesday evening. It is the peace of a world that has room for everyone. The oceans of silk and shadow. If we turn our gaze toward the horizon, where the city meets the deep indigo of the ocean, we see a blue world that is just as harmonious. In our own history, the oceans were often seen as a resource to be harvested or a barrier to be crossed. In this world, the ocean is a sacred partner. Deep beneath the waves, the coral cities hum with a soft, bioluminescent light. These are the research stations and homes of the human aquatic guilds, built to mirror the geometry of the reefs. Here, humans live alongside the great mosasaurs, the ancient kings of the deep who never abdicated their throne. The relationship is one of silent communication. Using advanced hydroacoustic technology, humans and marine reptiles speak through patterns of vibration and light. The humans provide the reefs with nutrient-rich minerals to combat the natural cycles of cooling, and the mosasaurs act as the guardians of the sea, guiding human submersibles through the treacherous currents of the abyss. There is a profound stillness in the deep. Imagine the sight of a human diver, protected by a sleek, pressure-resistant suit, swimming alongside a leviathan that has existed in various forms for 80 million years. There is no fear. There is only a deep, liquid respect. The ocean is not a place of mystery and danger, but a cathedral of history, where the ancient past and the high-tech present swim side by side in the cold, blue silence. The technology of the whisper. The technology of this advanced Earth is almost invisible. We have moved past the era of the clanging machine. There are no roaring engines, no grinding gears, and no plumes of smoke. Energy is harvested from the breath of the world. Every biotower is a giant solar harvester, its leaves converting sunlight into clean, silent electricity with a 99% efficiency. The transit systems are gravity sleds that move along the planet's magnetic ley lines, gliding a few inches above the ground with a soft, metallic whisper. But the true advancement is in biointegrated systems. A human in this world can communicate with the local ecosystem through a refined, ethical neural link. They can feel the thirst of a forest or the anxiety of a migrating herd. This is not about control, it is about empathy. When the humans know that a herd of triceratops is feeling the stress of a particularly dry summer, the city's weather management systems respond with a gentle, localized misting of rain. We have become the gardeners of the earth. We use our vast intelligence to ensure that the natural cycles of birth, growth, and decay continue without the catastrophic interruptions of the past. We have realized that our role is to be the fine-tuners of the symphony, ensuring that every instrument, from the smallest beetle to the largest carnivore, has its moment to be heard.